Hey everyone, and welcome to a deep dive tailored just for you. We're diving into the fascinating world of child development, specifically those incredible years between 6 and 11.
An amazing time of growth. And it's not just about those growth spurts you see on the wall.
It's like they go from building Lego towers one minute to debating the rules of the playground the next.
Yeah.
So are you ready to unlock the secrets of how their minds and bodies transform during these early school years?
Absolutely. Let's unravel these mysteries together.
Perfect. Because you specifically requested this deep dive. You want to understand what makes these little humans tick. Maybe you've got a child in your life going through these changes, or maybe you're just curious about this crucial stage of development.
And you know what? Understanding this phase, it's like getting a peek behind the curtain of how those early experiences shape who they become later on.
Exactly. And to do that, we're going to draw on some amazing insights from academic texts on child development. It's amazing how much research is out there. Like, did you know that a 6-year-old's head is proportionally larger than an adult's?
It's true. And it's not just about those adorable oversized hats they wear.
It's true. I mean, I always thought it was to make them look cuter.
Well, it's definitely cute. But it actually reflects some serious brain development happening beneath the surface. Think about it. A 6-year-old's head is about 1/6 of their total body size, but by adulthood, that shrinks to about 1/8.
Wow. So their brains are doing some serious rewiring during this time. No wonder they need those extra brain cells. But seriously, what's going on in those growing minds?
Well, according to Piaget's stages of cognitive development, this age lines up perfectly with what he called the concrete operational stage.
Concrete operational. Sounds a bit technical.
It does, doesn't it? It basically means that kids are starting to think less like, well, little kids and more like mini scientists.
Many scientists, I like that.
Right. They're transitioning from that magical thinking of preschool to a more logical and concrete understanding of the world.
So they're not just taking things at face value anymore. They're actually testing and experimenting.
Precisely. Remember that classic experiment where researchers show a child a ball of clay, then they flatten it and ask if it weighs the same?
Oh, yeah. And the younger kids are always convinced the flat one weighs more just because it looks bigger.
Exactly. But during this concrete operational stage, they start to grasp the idea of conservation.
Conservation.
Yes, it's the understanding that something can stay the same, even if its appearance changes. Like the amount of clay stays the same, whether it's in a ball or flattened like a pancake.
That's a pretty big cognitive leap, isn't it?
Huge. And it impacts everything. From understanding that pouring juice into a taller glass doesn't magically create more juice to grasping more abstract concepts like math.
So if you're wondering why your first grader might struggle with abstract math concepts, but can build a magnificent fort out of pillows.
It's all about those cognitive building blocks falling into place. And as those blocks connect, their ability to learn really takes off. Like with math, it's not just rote memorization anymore.
They're actually starting to understand the why behind the what.
Exactly. They can grasp ideas like seriation, putting things in order based on size or weight. Think about how crucial that is for everything.
From organizing their toys to understanding fractions later on.
Exactly. It's all connected. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. While we're focusing on cognitive development, remember all of this is happening in tandem with incredible social and emotional changes.
They're not just growing physically and mentally, they're navigating a whole new world of friendships, emotions.
And moral dilemmas. It's a lot to handle. But we'll dive into all of that right after a quick break.
Okay, so we're back and ready to jump into the fascinating world of social and emotional development. Because it's not just about those brains getting bigger, right? It's about kids figuring out who they are in the world, how to relate to others.
It's about navigating a whole new landscape of friendships, emotions, and yeah, even a little bit of drama.
A little bit. I feel like my 8-year-old brings enough drama home to rival a soap opera sometimes.
Well, there's a reason for that. This is what researchers often call the gang age. It's when those social dynamics really take center stage. Think about it, between 6 and 11, kids go from spending most of their time with family to navigating the rules and rituals of peer groups.
Oh, absolutely. Friendships become everything, especially those same-sex friendships. It's like they're forming their own little societies with their own secret codes and languages.
Exactly. And it makes sense when you consider how crucial these relationships are for developing a sense of self. It's within these friendships that kids start figuring out where they fit in, what they're good at, how to deal with conflict.
It's like they're trying on different versions of themselves, seeing what sticks.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
as they're figuring out their place in the social world, their sense of right and wrong is also evolving.
Oh, right. We were talking about Piaget earlier and how their thinking becomes more logical. So it's not just about following rules blindly anymore.
Exactly. A younger child might simply think, don't hit, because mom said so and I'll get in trouble. But as they move through this stage, they start to develop what researcher Lawrence Kohlberg called autonomous morality.
Autonomous morality. So, like, they're becoming their own moral compass.
Precisely. They start to consider intentions and context. Instead of just seeing things as black and white, they start to see the shades of gray.
That's a big shift.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of what that looks like in action?
Sure. One of the studies we looked at used a scenario where a child sees a friend break a rule. A younger child, they're focused on the act itself. The rule was broken, that's bad. But an older child might think, well, why did they break the rule? Were they trying to help someone? Were they trying to be funny?
Oh, wow. That nuance is huge.
It is. It shows a deeper understanding of morality. It's not just about following rules, it's about understanding the why behind them.
And that takes time, right? Experience.
Mm,
Probably a few arguments on the playground.
definitely. And let's not forget, all of this is happening while they're also riding a hormonal roller coaster. Think about it. They've got academic expectations, social dynamics, and those pesky hormones starting to kick in. It's a lot to handle.
It really is. It makes you realize how vital our role as adults is during this time. We're not just there to teach them about long division and grammar.
We're there to provide that stable, supportive presence as they navigate all of this, to be their cheerleaders, their confidants, even when they're driving us a little crazy.
It's so true. One of the studies actually highlighted just how important that unconditional support is. It found that children in this age group, they're much less likely to be overwhelmed by failures or setbacks when they know their parents believe in them.
It's that sense of security, that unconditional love that makes all the difference. It gives them the courage to try new things, to bounce back from disappointments.
It's like we're building their resilience muscle. One hug, one word of encouragement at a time.
Exactly. And speaking of learning and growing, I'm really interested to dive into what the research says about how education itself can best support kids during this critical period. Because it's not just about academics, is it?
Definitely not. It's about nurturing the whole child, creating an environment where they can thrive intellectually, socially, emotionally.
Exactly. So let's talk about that. Let's unpack some of the research on how to make education engaging, relevant, and empowering for every child.
So we're talking about education, and I think it's fascinating how, for so long, we've kind of treated education as this separate thing,
Separate.
separate from a child's emotional and social development. But all this research is really showing us how interconnected it all is. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just about what happens in the classroom. A child's experiences at school, their interactions with teachers, with their peers, it all plays a role in who they become. Right.
Right? It's like school becomes this training ground for navigating the world. And one thing I found really interesting was this idea of not suppressing a child's natural instincts, but instead channeling those instincts towards knowledge.
Oh, that's powerful, isn't it? Kids are naturally curious. They want to explore. They want to experiment, figure things out. And traditional education sometimes, tries to rein in those impulses a bit. What if we embrace them instead?
Yeah. What if instead of sit still and listen, it was more like, let's use that energy to discover something amazing?
Exactly. And, the research suggests that this kind of approach, where learning is active and engaging, it can make a world of difference. I mean, John Dewey, do you know, familiar with him at all? Prominent educational reformer from the early 20th century.
Vaguely, yeah.
He was a huge proponent of this experiential learning, making it hands-on, relevant, exciting.
So less about memorizing facts from a textbook and more about bringing those facts to life.
Precisely. Like, imagine if instead of just reading about the Amazon rainforest, a child got to experience it virtually. They can almost feel the humidity, hear the sounds of the jungle, see the vibrant life all around them.
Wow. That'd be incredible. Turn learning into an adventure.
Exactly. And this can be applied to any subject. History can come alive through virtual tours of ancient cities or interactive simulations of historical events. Science can become a hands-on exploration through experiments and projects.
It makes you wonder why we ever thought cramming facts from a textbook was the best way to learn, huh?
Right, but every era has its approach. It is exciting to see how education is kind of evolving to embrace a more, holistic and engaging approach. And speaking of embracing differences, the research also spends a significant amount of time highlighting the importance of recognizing that not all children learn the same way.
Yeah, and that's so crucial, isn't it? That's
Right.
this idea of exceptional children, and it's not about, labeling them, but about recognizing that some might need a little extra support, while others might thrive on different kinds of challenges.
Right. A child with dyslexia might struggle with reading but excel in visual and spatial reasoning. A child with ADHD might need more movement, might need more breaks to stay focused, but they might bring this unique energy and creativity to their learning.
Absolutely. And one of the researchers shared this story. It was about a child who couldn't grasp this concept of the Mississippi River being the same one he saw, in pictures and books on maps. It was because he'd first learned about it abstractly from a textbook. And it wasn't until he stood on its banks, experienced it firsthand, that it finally clicked for him.
Wow. That's a powerful reminder that sometimes the way we present information, it can actually become a barrier
The barrier to learning. Yeah.
to learning.
Yeah.
And the good news is there are so many tools, so many strategies available now, from specific teaching methods like direct instruction, which breaks things down.
Breaks it down.
Yeah, breaks down complex concepts into smaller, more manageable steps. There's assistive technologies that can help children with learning disabilities access information in a way that works for them.
It's about empowering every child to learn and grow
Yeah.
in a way that plays to their strengths.
Exactly. And I think that brings us to a really beautiful point to kind of end on this idea of nurturing a child's natural curiosity as that foundation for lifelong learning?
It's like that spark that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
that thing that makes them want to explore, to question, to never stop discovering.
Yes. And if we can keep that spark alive, imagine the possibilities.
It's limitless.
It's not about filling their heads with facts? It's about nurturing that sense of wonder, that desire to understand the world around them.
So it's more about fostering that love of learning.
Yes. So they continue to explore and ask questions long after they've left the classroom.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive. I know it goes so fast. But thank you, everyone, for joining us on this journey of discovery. And remember, the most important lessons are often the ones that we learn together.
Subscribe now.